Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Building the Dream. In this podcast, I am exploring the personal stories of some of the most interesting and impactful tech entrepreneurs. This episode is one of the 6 special editions that we record around the Climate Tech Summit that will take place in October in Amsterdam. My name is Leopold and I'm the host of this podcast. Today I'm excited to introduce you to Lenny van Klink, who is the co-founder of Salacia Solutions in Rotterdam. They are scaling an ESG tracking and reporting platform. I'm really curious to hear more about why he and his business partner Kees Kerstens started Salacia in 2021, after running their previous advisory firm for more than 15 years, and what challenges they have faced along the way. Today he will share all his highlights, failures and lessons with us. So welcome Lenny, how are you this morning?
Thank you, Leo. I'm fine. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Great. Is this your first podcast or have you ever done something similar?
I've done many interviews, but this is my first podcast.
All right.
So it's a new exciting thing.
All right, cool. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, Lenny. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Lenny. I will not disclose my age, but mentally I'm 28. I'm the third child. My father was a captain of the Dutch Merchant Navy.
Okay.
So in my youth, he was away a lot. So basically, I was brought up by my mother and 2 elder sisters. So as a young boy, having 3 mothers, that was quite challenging, but I survived.
And where did you live?
I was born in Papendrecht, in the vicinity of Rotterdam, but I grew up in IJmuiden, near the coast. Mm-hmm. So I consider myself a coastal child, and I decided that I still want to live near the sea. I have to hear the waves and feel the wind. I really like that environment.
And what got your interest as a kid?
Caught my interest as a kid, I played soccer a lot. So I had a dream of becoming a professional soccer player, of course, which did not happen. And as a child, saw on television once a military action of the Royal Dutch Marine Corps. And my father being an officer of the Merchant Navy, a captain, I decided that as a kid I want to be an officer of the Royal Dutch Marine Corps. Unfortunately, when I was 17, I did not pass the physical test because I was too tall. They like shorter guys more for obvious physical reasons. If you are shorter, your back is stronger. As a 17-year-old kid, that was quite a disappointment. I could not accept that reason.
Did you have a backup plan for that?
Completely not. And that raised some issues because I completely did not know what to do with my life afterwards. So thanks to my parents, and I have to thank my mother especially. She motivated me. And there was this conversation I remembered that she said, okay, without the physical part of the Marine Corps, what did you like? What was attractive to you? And then I replied, leading a pack. So being a front runner. And then she said, you can do that everywhere. Mm-hmm. So that was for me the switch to go to university. And I started to study public administration in the city of Leiden. And once I entered the university world, I came to the conclusion that there's lots of charm in being a student. So that was, then I got rid of the negative feeling not becoming an officer with the Marines.
You became an entrepreneur 13 years after you started your first job?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got some other experience and probably were already thinking all those years in the back of your head, I want to start something. Was it always clear for you what you wanted to start?
No, completely not. So I explained already that on my father's side, there are a lot of guys who live their life at sea, being an officer. The father of my mother was a small business owner, but unfortunately, he died a few months before I was born. And in my physics, I look a lot like my father. But it was after graduation, my MBA, and I discussed with my parents, I want to become more and more an entrepreneur. My father said to me, "You look like a Van Klink, but in your character, you look more like your grandfather on the other side." And that was for me the electrifying moment that there was another blood in my veins running. And I needed that. I needed that confirmation to say, okay, let's become an entrepreneur. So it took me a while, but now I'm never going back. I really like being an entrepreneur.
But you made that decision, and I'm counting, and you're not disclosing your age, which is fine, but I'm just counting a little bit. So for sure, it was your late 30s.
Exactly.
So you have, I mean, by then, a lot of people, they usually have a lot of obligations, right? They need to pay for their family. They probably have a mortgage. So this is a very risky age to make such a decision. And listening to your career, you probably had like well-paid jobs before that. So did you discuss that with your wife? I mean, you're talking a lot about your wife also on your website. She's, I think, one of your most important advisors. So how did that go?
Yeah, so fortunately, Pauline and I are in a very good relationship. And I think she's one of the few people on earth who really know me. And she traveled along with me. And there has been a certain period in my time that I was searching, okay, where are my qualities best served? When I came to the conclusion in 2006 that I want to become an entrepreneur, she fully supported it. So yes, there was this financial risk, but she also knows how determined I can be. And she said, if you put your mind to it, there is nobody in this world that going to put you away from your track. So she completely trusted me, and she said, let's go. And that was fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with your first plan? The first company that you started is called Rebel Group. I think it still exists. I think it's even very big still. How did you come up with this plan and idea?
Yeah, so the truth is that Rebel already existed.
Okay.
So I missed the electrifying moment of the start of Rebel, but Rebel was active for only a few years. And I knew a few of the founders. So there were two former colleagues from the Dutch Ministry of Finance, and an old partner of mine from Twijnstra Gudde, working within Rebel. And Rebel was a strictly financial consultancy boutique. And we met again, like a coincidence. And they told me, we give this financial advice, and then the client doesn't follow up. And I said, yeah, of course, because there are lots of reasons within a company why you should follow an advice or not. And then they said, yeah, but we really want to make impact. And then my reply was, what you need is an implementation partner. What you need is executive force helping a client from the general idea to implementation. And that requires a different type of a skill set. And then the guy said, why don't you do it? And I say, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I founded another new company under the umbrella of Rebel, and that is where I started my career as an entrepreneur. So it was a greenfield, and that's where we hit off.
And how did that go for you?
I think it's fantastic. So what I really like is being an entrepreneur is like being out on the prairie on your own, and you need to find your path. You need to take care of yourself and your teammates. If you mess it up, it's your problem, and you have to solve it. If you have an idea, you have to bring along the pack and motivate people. So it was a very successful company. I did that for 10 years. Then I handed it over to colleagues, and I became a partner of Rebel at holding level. starting all kinds of new companies under the umbrella of Rebel.
Is this also where you met Kees, your current co-founder?
Yeah, I hired Kees in 2009. He was one of my first employees. We always worked together very closely. And when I moved to the holding of Rebel, Kees was one of the guys I handed over my own company. So he brought it to the next level.
And what did this time at Rebel Group bring you? I mean, those are, of course, also the years that you need to take financial care of yourself and your family. But did you also have like other goals right now with Salacia? Of course, you're more, chasing impact, mission driven. So was that already something on your mind back then?
The impact side, yes. What I always recognized the fact that I'm a very lucky guy. So I was born in the right place, and I had parents who raised me very well. At least I think they raised me very well, and they supported me. And you can only be successful in life when you have other people who will give you the opportunity to perform. So, that is an element that I still apply in my daily work, that if nobody gives you a chance to show what you're capable of, then you cannot make a career. And there are too many people without a network, and they don't get a chance they deserve. So within Rebel, I started the Rebel Junior Academy. We had a cooperation with numerous schools in Rotterdam, giving additional training to talented young people to bring them to the highest level of education. The second thing is that I am co-founder of the Social Impact Fund Rotterdam. It is an investment fund funded by private capital out of Rotterdam, of all types of families and organizations. And the Social Impact Fund Rotterdam provides money to social entrepreneurs to grow. So that was where my impact lies, but the idea of Salacia came later due to a project that we did.
What project, what gap did you and Kees see in the market that led to the creation of Salacia? I hear you pronounce it Salacia.
We say Salacia. We also met an Italian guy who said it's Salacia. So there are different ways of pronouncing the name.
Both is very sexy.
Yeah, it's nice. Huh? Perhaps there's time to explain the story behind the name, but
as a bonus,
So I've been advising companies for 15 years how they could transform their businesses towards more sustainability. And I encountered that still companies are deciding only on the unit money. So you can talk about sustainability for a very long time, but decision-making was still based on money. So my intrinsic motivation is that when it comes to ESG reporting, it is like a new language. We have to train our brains to interpret the outcomes of a, for instance, CO2 greenhouse gas emission. But that is like learning new words. And as long as we don't learn the new language, there will be an imbalance in decision making and money will always prevail. So I was trying to find a way to learn my clients how to interpret the results. That's one. Secondly, companies have software for everything, for their financial reporting, for their HRM, for stock inventory. Everything is automized. But when it comes to ESG reporting, we try to hustle something in Excel once a year. It's not good. It's not traceable. So the frequency of the reporting is too low, and the results are difficult to interpret. Then we were asked to calculate the total climate impact of all the transactions of a second-hand clothing platform. And we received so much data that the first time in my life I experienced that Excel exploded. Excel just could not handle that type of information anymore. So I used to say there was smoke coming out of the laptop. And that was the moment that I realized that if you want to learn people how to interpret it and use the outcomes of an ESG report, you need to accelerate the reporting frequency. And in order to do that, you need software to facilitate the reporting process. 4 years ago, during the summer period, this came into my head. And then I called Kees and I said, Kees, I have this idea. And then he famously replied to me, if you have an idea, it costs me a lot of money. So, yeah, but it will bring you a lot of money. And that was the electrifying moment for Salacia.
But that was the first time in your life, I think, when you started a software company.
Yeah.
And did you have any experience with building software before?
The honest answer is no.
All right.
We were so determined and we saw the necessity that we said, okay, let's try to make a prototype. So we had this idea and we worked on this idea. I had this rough idea and Kees helped me to make it better. I phoned one of my clients. I explained the idea we had. And he replied, Lenny, I don't have a clue what you're talking about, but I know you for a very long time. In general, the things you say make sense. So go ahead. And then we got access to all his operational and financial data. And that was how we first tried to connect operational data into a SaaS platform.
But did you do any research if there was like something available on the market that you could also use? And then, you know, because you came from a background where you were like advisor consultant. So usually consultants, they just grab software that's available on the market, you know, sell that with their margin and sell the hours. But that's not what you wanted.
No. So during the process that the smoke was coming out of the laptop, we investigated the market. And then we said, is there software that can be helpful for us? We couldn't find any. And that led to the idea, okay, then we are going to make it ourselves.
Yeah, so that was like 2021.
In that period, we made the first prototype. And when we had that operational, then Kees and I looked at each other and he said, yeah, this is where the market is going. So let's go. And Rebel, we were still working with Rebel. And we were very enthusiastic, but they were a consultancy firm. And they said, SaaS platform, we don't know. So we sat down, we drank some Dutch Genever, and then we decided, okay, let's split. And we're still friends, so that's where we left the company.
Yeah, but you mentioned that you were sure that that you knew that this was where the market was going. So what was your evidence? I mean, of course, back then, I think the Green Deal was already there. CSRD was not there. I mean, that's only since now, right? I don't think that even the biggest companies were already considering their whole ESG policies. So what made you so sure about your decision?
Starting a business, there's always a risk, right? And I think that we were early in developing the general idea. But we were so convinced about the necessity of the software that we were also convinced that the market would pick up quite rapidly. But still, evidence, proof, none. It's the hinge of an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And we took a risk.
It sounds like you had quite a rolling start because you phased yourself out of the consultancy business. You already had your first client. I think before you started building, you convinced the client that it was a good idea. So how were those first months? I mean, economically, did you have to, I don't know, get a loan or something to start this thing, or was it like
was all
profitable from day one?
No, certainly not. The honest answer is we burned a lot of money.
Okay.
And it was our own money. So Kees and I invested in this company substantially. we accepted the fact that in the first years we would make a loss. So we were bootstrapped. We paid our employees a normal salary, and we didn't pay ourselves anything. And at the first, we were a little bit too far advanced of the market. So we had a lot of discussions with potential clients that looked at us and said, "What are you talking about?" So we were disappointed many times. And at the same time, the front runners, the companies who already were working on an ESG report, they knew how difficult it is to process large amount of data into a reasonable and auditable report. And that was the sweet spot. So our first clients were the clients that already were making an ESG report, and they faced the same issues we had with Excel not being sufficient enough. And then we immediately aligned, and then they said, if you have software, please help us. So the first clients were relations of us, were people who knew us personally, and they gave us the opportunity to show what we are capable of.
All right.
Yeah, it was not an easy start.
Did it make you nervous, or even though you were, like you already aligned with case that you would make some losses those first years? Did it ever make you nervous, or did you have like tough conversations with your wife? Like, was this the right decision, or you were so determined?
I'm very famous for my impatience, and I think that what I expected the market to pick up earlier than it did. So it took us longer to build up a reasonable client base. But then the CSRD was determined, and that is a driving force. And
Did you see that coming, by the way?
Yeah. We knew that was going to happen. Only, things moved forward slowly. But the big advantage of the CSRD legislation is that it harmonizes things. It harmonizes the way companies need to report. Yeah. And everything that is harmonized can be put into software much more easy. So for us, that is a blessing in disguise. And that is a driving force behind developing this market.
And potentially 50,000 extra companies in Europe that can be your clients, right?
Yeah, and the European Union is stating about 50,000, but nobody until now explained how that figure of the 50,000 was put together. So, for instance, a company like VDL with the Netcar, they have, I believe, I don't know the exact number, but around 100 subsidiaries. Yeah. And in the 50,000, is VDL counting as one or as 100? Okay. I think as one. So the effects of the CSRD will be much larger than 50,000 companies. This is where we are at this moment in time.
And did you need any external investment along the way?
Until now, no. We do it completely ourselves. At this moment in time, we have the strategic conversation in the company. If we want to accelerate, what are we going to do? So there is this option of trying to find a banking loan, which is extremely difficult, or to bring in an investor. And that's where we are right in the middle. So I can't disclose any of it at this moment in time.
Yeah, sure. But I think so far you were growing organically. And I mean, that sounds like that totally fits you and Case. And I mean, it brought you quite far already after 4 years with such a team.
Yeah.
But do you feel, I mean, I don't want to hear the details about what you're considering, but are you considering that because of the fact that maybe you feel that you're missing out on the market? I mean, it's like a huge potential out there. You can only do what you can do, right, with 21 people. So is that the reason?
Yeah. So we want to build a solid company. So the brand Salacia Solutions equals quality. For me, that is extremely important. I'm not going to sell rubbish. What we sell works and it needs to be top-notch. The big question is, how fast is this European market going to be developed? And it is exactly like you said. How do we combine rapid growth with maintaining quality? Nobody knows the answer. We will have to find it out. But I think that additional capital allows us to combine the development of our platform with rapid growth, and we have to find our way in that.
On your homepage, actually, I found a famous quote by JFK.
Yeah.
And I will read it here. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept. So, in your leadership journey, what is your moonshot goal? The one thing that really stretched you as a leader and Salacia.
Yeah. So the quote from Kennedy really applies to me. I think it's a fantastic phrase. My parents used it a lot because you can feel the energy. You can feel that, yeah, it is a difficult task, but we are able to do it if we work together. And don't see it as a problem, but see it as a challenge. And for me personally, as a leader, I have a few fundamental rules, and we apply it to the company Salacia Solutions. And one of it is that things are really becoming better if you work together. So there's no room for ego in the company. We don't have much hierarchy. And if we work together, if we should work together on a project, and I give my reaction to a proposal, I want you to be convinced that my contribution is to make it better. Not to give you a bad feeling, but to make it better. And in order to make it better, you sometimes have to tell the ugly truth, which can be considered painful for a person. But if you know that my contribution is to aim to make it better, it is not to harm you, it's to make the product or the project better. And the second thing that I use a lot is that I want to make sure that all my team members feel supported. So I don't micromanage at all. I give them responsibility, and I say, if you feel the necessity for backup, then I'm there and I help you. And if things go wrong, then I will stand next to you, behind you, in front of you, and we will fix it. And that gives people a confidence to go. And the young guys I'm still a young guy, but I have to do my utmost best to keep up with them because they are so smart. And it is just about directing the people into the right direction. And you have to accept that things go wrong sometimes. But then the big issue is, how do you respond to it? Are you becoming angry? Or do you say, okay, what do we learn about this? And that's extremely difficult because if you feel the tension and you have the client and something goes wrong, then so I also have to address myself. No, take a breath. Yeah. What do we learn? And I think that is something that distinguishes the way we work in Rebel. And I hope that all my team members recognize what I'm just saying.
How will you measure your own success in terms of impact, financial success? What is most important? What is driving you right now?
So what I really would like is that when it comes to ESG reporting, in a few years, it will be just like Intel Inside. So it will be Salacia Inside. So nobody knows exactly what we're doing, but when it comes to CSRD reporting, you just use the platform of Salacia because that is best in class. So for me, that is one of the key elements. When we started the company, we wrote a declaration, Kees and I, about what type of company we want to be. And one of the statements in the declaration is that once we are making a profit, we will allocate 5% of our profit every year to some social goal. And what we really would like to see is that we make the connection with, again, children in Rotterdam to motivate them for IT and ESG and to build something of an educational program for that. So when it comes to impact, that is on the impact side.
What kind of CEO are you right now? Are you like focused on the market, on the clients, on the future, or are you like more like a product guy that is really into the product itself all day and loves to tell the team what to do?
Let me start, but I'm not the CEO.
Okay.
I call myself co-founder, and Kees is the other co-founder, and we are a team. So we work on this together. And when I had this idea, this general idea, I really thought about, okay, if I'm going to pursue this dream, am I going to do it alone, or do I want to have a co-pilot or a co-founder? And I came to the conclusion that I only wanted to start this company if I could do it together with Kees, because I think we are very complementary. So the biggest challenge we have is that there is a distinction between working to make the company grow or to work in the company. So there's a constant struggle of us being involved in all kinds of projects, but we need to build the company, and that's a different role. And I'm more like building the company with having partnerships, talking to clients, doing some sales, and organizing the company. And Kees is the product owner, so he is more focusing. He's also doing sales, but also focusing on developing the platform. And that is a little bit how we divided the roles.
So we are recording this podcast here around the Climate Tech Summit that we will organize in October, where we'll invite a lot of other climate tech entrepreneurs. What do you think makes it extra challenging for these type of businesses that are around circularity, waste, sustainability, energy? I mean, you are basically in this market already for a very long time. What do you think that is extra difficult for them compared to, let's say, regular entrepreneurs who, or don't you see it?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, but when it comes to sustainability or ESG reporting, I sometimes make the comparison with world peace. So every rational, well-thinking human being is in favor of world peace. But the big issue is how to get there. And now the bridge towards sustainability. So if I talk to my clients or to prospect to companies, everybody is in favor of trying to become more sustainable. Only the big issue is, how do we get there?
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many issues in a company already that thinking about sustainability or reorganizing your value chain or try to optimize your processes in a company, it's all considered something additional, which costs money, which is totally not the case, but that is the basic attitude. So I think that the big challenge is to facilitate companies, to make it easy to help them in trying to find ways to optimize their working processes and also to make it fun a little bit. So if you look, and I can't state that enough, if you only look at CSRD from a compliancy point of view, you totally miss the point. Because then it will be a checklist and it will be red tape, it will be additional work, and it's completely not fun. We present the outcomes of our reports to our client as a way to unlock business opportunities. please take a look at the results and ask yourself the question, what does it mean? And where do our emissions evolve in our way of working? And how can we optimize it? And that is why Kennedy is so important, because then you have the challenge. It is hard, but the promise is that you can optimize money and impact. And if you can do that, I think then we are on the right pace. So with everybody working on sustainability, it is bringing over your added value when companies have a ton of things to do already, and then you have to make it easy and fun. That is my opinion.
So it will probably only really fly if companies and people see that sustainability can actually, generate more profit and, probably gives them a better feeling, more purpose to their companies. But the business case needs to be clear, right?
Yeah, and then you're totally right. And then you have to define, what is the business case?
Yeah.
Is the business case solely euros?
Yeah.
Or is there an additional new part in the business case when it comes to, and what is our effect on environment, and how can we reduce the impact and still also reduce cost or make more profit?
Yeah.
That is the big challenge. That is where the hard part is.
Earlier you mentioned the word dream. So was building Salacia really your dream?
I think that my whole career until the start of Salacia was preparation for this moment. That's the way I feel it. That's the way I feel it. So all the field of expertise that I need, I can trust on the experience I had. And I actually really feel that Salacia was meant to happen. That was, it was all a build-up, all the experience I had to now build this company. That's the way I feel it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
All right, let's just zoom out a little bit, because of course the underlying problem why Salacia actually exists is climate change, right?
Yeah.
So what is your take on that? Do you feel that as a society we can still change the tide, and what do you think will be, eventually the fix? Do you think it's going to be more regulation, more cooperation between the countries, or do you just think that technology will fix it?
So I'm completely not a climate pessimist. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be optimistic. And I think that, I'm an optimistic guy. And I'm optimistic for a reason. Because reality is that if you look at companies and the way they operate, there is this thing that things run in a company the way they do because they were decided once time to do it in a certain way. And they were perfectly okay decision at that moment in time. Only the impact on climate was never a top list criteria on the decision, in the decision-making process. So things operate the way they operate, and if it works, why would you change it? And I think that if you look through the lens of ESG reporting, it gives companies the opportunity to reevaluate the way they work. And then they ask themselves a question, why do we use this material? Why do we buy this piece of equipment halfway around the world? And is there a possibility to buy the same quality more closer so we can optimize our transportation? And I think we're only at the very early beginnings of this way of thinking. But if we apply it and we apply it all, then the possibilities to reduce CO2 emissions are tremendous. Only you can't do it in one day. We need to accept that it will take a certain amount of time. And secondly, I'm very optimistic because I see with younger people that they have a totally different attitude towards climate and climate change than some older guys like me, and that's reason for optimism.
Good.
So yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Happy to hear that you're positive.
Yeah, it won't be easy.
Yeah,
but we can do it.
where do you see yourself in 5 years? Will you be still running this company?
I hope so. I feel myself filled with energy. Case and I agreed that we made an arrangement for at least 10 years to build this company. There's always this element, are you staying healthy or not? I consider myself a very healthy guy. And I'm convinced that if you want to grow old in a healthy way, you need to stay active.
Yeah.
And we will see along the way in what type of role. With my previous company, I showed that I can step down and do other things and give other people some room. But until now, I like to be in the ring. I like this. I like this battle. So I'm ready to go. I'm not done yet.
All right, so almost there. So to conclude this episode today, Lenny, if you could give one piece of advice to other climate tech entrepreneurs or people who are building a company and listening to this right now, what would it be?
I think it's crucial to work together. So this whole new field of ESG reporting requires a lot of different types of expertise. And it's very tempting to state that you can do it all. At the same time, I think it's unrealistic. So you have to have an open heart in order to come to partnerships and to work together. And that is extremely difficult because a lot of companies are searching for their spot in the market. And how do you work then together? And is it a referral? Or how do you going to be paid? But really, clients are struggling, and we owe our clients that they are served in the best way possible. And that requires the combination of different disciplines. I don't know exactly where all the companies who are listening are placed in this whole ESG field. But I would state that don't try to do it all yourself, but try to find partners and work together. I think that is the key to being successful.
So thank you a lot. There's just one bonus question. I promised you to ask it in the end. So can you tell me where the name Salacia or Salacia, or how the Italian guy pronounced it, comes from?
So when I had this general idea about this company, unfortunately, my father died. And I was never in a position to tell him that I would start a new company. And then I was walking with Skipper, my dog. And then I thought, how do I honor him? And then I came up with, then I create a name, Smart Environmental Analytics, C, as a sort of referral to him. And when we were making this MVP, we assembled a team of smart young men and women. And there was this young woman in the team who said to me, Lenny, I think this is a brilliant idea. And I really want to work with you, but I'm not going to work for a company that's called C. I mean, that is the most dull name there is. I took a breath, and then I thought, now I can respond in two ways. I can be offended by the fact that she doesn't recognize the emotional aspect of that name for me. Or if I want to build a brand, then perhaps this is not the best name. But then I needed an alternative, of course. Long story short, Salacia is the goddess and protector of all life under sea. She is the wife of Neptune. The Neptune is the god of the wild sea, the booze and the women. And he fell in love with Salacia, half human, half fish. But Salacia didn't want to have anything to do with Neptune. So Neptune came up with this brilliant plan. He wrote a love poem and he asked the dolphin to present that love poem to Salacia. After that, she fell in love. As a reward, Neptune granted the dolphin the royal status. And that's why people like a dolphin a lot. And you see in family armory a lot of dolphins. That all relates to this story. And Salacia means sensational. And I think we have a problem of sensational proportions, which requires a sensational solution brought by a sensational team. So what better can we do to have a female protector? And that's why we called Salacia.
Wow, that's the best background story that I heard about any brand, right? So that's super cool. And I'm quite sure that your father would be very proud of you, what you achieved so far. Thank you a lot, Lenny, for this great conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
I'd love to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lenny, for your time and openness. For sure, your story will help and inspire other entrepreneurs in their journey. All the best for you and your team at Salacia. Hopefully, you will help a lot of companies towards a more sustainable future. In the next episode, I will talk to another inspiring guest from the climate tech industry, Jorn Eiting, former co-founder of Sinans, so I hope all of you will tune in again. If you don't want to miss the next episode, please subscribe to this podcast via Spotify, Apple, or Podimo. Thanks, see you next time, and have a nice day.